Thank you and good evening, folks. I think some of them are enjoying their tea, but that's okay. So, but we'll start because I think we've got a couple of other programs following us. So, this is, I can hear myself in the mic, but I don't know whether the enough speakers. Okay, so we have a panel on digital uh, data and technology. So I'll just set a context for about 15 minutes, right? So and then we'll get on to the panel. And this is going to be a very interactive panel because the theme is dialogue. Okay. So I will start with a monologue, but this monologue is based on multiple dialogues I've had for over 6 years. And I've been talking about AI, I've been thinking about AI, and I've been writing about AI. And this was much before ChatGPT came through, and of course, DeepSeek came through. So let me just address AI first because that's the big elephant in the room, right? When we talk digital now, it's almost always about AI. So I would like to make 4 points here, and let me just lay down the points before you. The first is AI is becoming a general purpose technology. So what do I mean by general purpose technology? It is as general purpose a technology as computers, as mobile phones, as electricity, right? So that it is a general purpose technology. The second point I like to make is that AI has become important now or is happening now because of certain things that are, that have come together. We didn't have that 10 years ago, but now we have all the pieces, the jigsaw pieces coming together and making AI as powerful as it is today. The third point I like to make is about the impact of AI. We're still figuring out what the real impact would be, but some of the contours is visible, being evident now. We're not sure how it will evolve, but we need to be on it. And the last point I like to make is about what society needs to do, right? This is a slightly different kind of a technology, right? So everybody is going to be impacted by AI. I mean, you might say that, hey, I'm a musician, so it doesn't matter, or I'm a painter, it doesn't matter. But this technology will impact us in a big way. So let me just give you a few examples and illustrate all these four points. So the first one, general purpose technology. So I don't know how many of you saw the videos put up by Omni Human One. It's a video generation model, entirely AI, by a company called ByteDance. We otherwise know ByteDance as the guys who make TikTok, right? So they had a lovely video, a 2-minute video of Einstein explaining something, which is about world peace and things like that. So good or bad? Anyone? Do you think it's a good piece of technology or a bad piece of technology? Good? Okay, good and bad, right? Yeah, it is good and bad. Bad because you might be featuring in a video talking about something that you would never talk about, right? Obvious. Why is it good? Uh, if you are a student and if you find it, you know, tremendously boring to sit in class and listen to your teachers, you can just say that, hey, I want to learn a concept in physics and I want Einstein teaching me. Possible, okay? Even Newton teaching you gravitation, his 3 laws, it's possible to do with AI technology, right? So the second, development that just happened a few days ago was OpenAI releasing its model called Deep Research. I don't know how many of us have heard about it. This is doing a job of an entry level MBA, right? Just think about it. So how many MBAs are getting into the job market every year in India? It's a few lakhs, right? Imagine something that's able to perform tasks that they generally do. Okay, how do we handle this technology? How do we work with this technology, and how do we ensure that our MBAs are not going to be impacted with this technology? It's a catch 22, right? Unless the MBAs get their experience for the first 10 years, they're never going to be ready for the roles that they take on after 10 years, right? But that experience really going to get to them in the next decade?
In 10 years, would you really need MBAs as analysts? So that's a question that we need to ask, debate, and figure out. So, how has AI become big now? So, as I see, there are three things that have come together in the last 3 or 4 years. So, one is the ability for us to scrape immense amount of data. Data which is in the form of text, numbers, data which is in the form of audio, data which is in the form of video, right? We're able to use that to train these, models using the power of what's now called as, GPUs, right? So there is one stock which went up, I don't know, some insane amount of maybe about close to a few 100%, right, in the last 1 year, Nvidia, right? So those guys make some exceptional chips which are used to train this data using algorithms which were probably developed not later than I think the oldest algorithm which is really powering this Gen AI was probably in the early 80s, right? It's not a new technology. It's just taken 50 years for us to get from there to here, right? So these the work that's being done is today being done by companies which are not more than maybe 10 or 15 years old. OpenAI, right? DeepSeek, and if you've used a search tool called Perplexity, which is CEO is an Indian, right? These are all not more than 10 years old. So we'll discuss more about these aspects. We have for data, we have Swaminathan and then Rajesh about how the embedded software and hardware works and startups, right? So what do we need to do? I think we have Vanita who will give us a good idea of that. Impact. So two big impacts. One is applications. So we are already hearing about agents, right? Each one of us can have an agent which will act on our behalf. You want to book a ticket, the agent will know exactly what kind of seats you would like, which theaters you would prefer, and what times you will prefer, right? They would book the tickets, they'll probably book an Uber for you as well, right? So that's where we're getting into. And this is not science fiction, it's going to happen in the next few years. And the more important impact is access to AI, right? So right now, obviously, the core AI models are being developed by just two countries, the US and China. We are trying to do it. Hopefully, we will do it. So as a country, we need to take a call on how we need to move here. And obviously, every industry is going to get impacted because your competitors would use AI, and then you would be left with no chance but to adopt AI in terms of catching up, right? And you don't want to catch up. And the most important aspect of AI is how it's going to impact each one of us. So if you have kids who are in school at home, you probably know that they're already logging into ChatGPT or Copilot and using that to help them do their homeworks, right? If you have a large team, I'm sure some of your team members are definitely using AI to make the presentations that you ask them to make. If you've been sitting on Zoom calls or Google Meet calls like I have, so for every 5 participants, there's at least 7 AI agents that come and sit on the call to summarize what's happening, right? So it is a new world, and it will become an even newer world in the years to come. So finally, what does society need to do? So the first thing is that there's going to be a digital divide: those with AI and those without AI, right? Just like we had a digital divide of for those with phones and those without phones, we can expect the same here. The second one is about whether these AI models are fair, they're ethical. So we need to figure out as a society to ensure that whatever AI that we use is fair, is ethical. How is that going to happen? Is it going to be a self-regulation? Are they going to be regulations? The jury is still out there deciding. And creative copyrights, right? So one of the nice things about the dialogue here is that I see that there are artists here, there are musicians here. So how are they going to cope up if AI is going to generate the work that they would normally take maybe years to generate? It's fascinating, but We need to think about these things. And finally, the future of work. So we have been used to a certain kind of work, right? In the last, let's say, 100 years in an industrial society. So we know we have a manufacturing industry, we have a service industry. There's agriculture, then there is different sectors. So how are each of these going to get impacted? Like they got impacted when electric power came into play, when computers came to play, right? What's going to happen? So we have a very eminent jury here. I mean, a panel here. So we'll get on to the panel discussion straight away. So the one of the most fascinating things about AI, as I said, is that these are all technology that's being developed by companies that are young, which were startups not too long ago. So Vanita is the right person here to talk us about what is happening in the deep tech space, especially in India. What are things happening in Tamil Nadu, and what's the kind of work that we are seeing in the AI space?
Good evening, everyone. No, no, this is what Hello. I think I'm gone. Good evening, everyone. I think it is almost 5 o'clock. So after a tea, at least, I think I appreciate everyone sitting together for us. I'm Vanita Venugopal. I am the CEO of the Tamil Nadu Technology Hub, an initiative by the government of Tamil Nadu specifically to work with the emerging and deep tech startups of the state. And as Daya was telling me, so that kind of fits into what is the government trying to do in this space. So when we try to understand first deep tech, how do you differentiate a deep tech startup from any other startups, right? So deep tech is a kind of innovation that comes from a lot of R&D and research. So one of the finest example we have in our own state is IT, research park that has done some breakthrough technologies. And Tamil Nadu Technology Hub is set up in lines to see how we can have a more democratization of these startups. To coming back to what India is doing and what from the government we are trying to do through Technology Hub is there is a draft policy for deep tech that was published in 23, which talked about because the needs of the deep tech startups are very different. The lead time is different. The kind of investments they're looking for is different. And also, they have to be working on some breakthrough technologies that actually go and change the world. For example, he kept talking about ChatGPT. I'm assuming since it's an easy example, everyone can kind of relate to it. The LLM models that came out of research is the one that is driving this. So that kind of breakthrough technology is what we consider as deep tech. So fortunately, out of the 10,000 DPIIT registered startup in Tamil Nadu, around 800 of them are in the deep tech space, which is a good number, by the way. And out of which around 300 are actually doing some cutting edge work. The reason I confidently say this is we did a feasibility study through the government to see like how many deep techs are there, how can we support them. The three things that any startup looks for in any space is, I call it the 3 M's, right? Market, money, and mentorship. And for the deep tech, it goes the reverse. They need a lot of mentorship in the beginning when we are doing idea validation. So how, if they think there is an IP and there is idea validation, then coming and mentors, experts telling them this actually would fit into the market becomes the biggest challenge for a startup, so that we don't do a VOD, the value of death we call it, where a startup is not able to sustain itself. So the deep tech policy was put together in the national just to make sure there are things that would support a researcher to actually take into their entrepreneurial journey, actually come up with these products. So as Tamil Nadu Technology, what we have done is we are going to be the first state in India to come up with a draft policy, which will be released very soon, in lines with the national deep tech policy. So there will be places where we will talk about what kind of support a deep tech startup will get in the spaces of AI, quantum computing. We are looking at all the frontier technology, clean technology, as well as smart cities, because there are many technologies that are there by, blockchain is there, but we have to pick few technologies that from frontier technologies from the center, like or the national, that we can take into it. So having said that, the programs that we are running in the last 1 year within ITNT, we call a beacon, which is the idea validation. which is like a boot camp when a researcher comes and says, we have these IPs, we want to make sure that we can make it as a product. We help with technology transfers. We also connect them to global partners, like we have taken delegations to different parts of the world. So these startups have an opportunity to work with innovators from across. The third thing we are trying to do is bringing them investments. So as part of our ecosystem, we have like deep tech investors who are okay with investing to 3 to 5 years and wait for the results to come. So these are the main three things, Daya, that as a government, we've been supporting them, and with a foundation fund that the government just announced like a couple of weeks ago.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think from the state government, let's go to an organization which is, partly set up by the central government. So we have Swaminathan from GS1, and they do some very interesting work in terms of data, and they use data very innovatively across the supply chain along with the physical product. So, Swaminathan, the question for you is data is becoming very, critical, especially, I mean, one is for AI, but even in terms of tracking a lot of products along the supply chain. So, how do you think it's evolving, and what can we expect to see in the near future?
Thank you. So one of the thing, we have seen a lot of emphasis so far going on the applications about the technology and AI, but fundamentally I believe that looking at the data part for the last 2 decades across several large companies with government and other thing, there is a lot of redundancy of data. Just to give you an example, we analyze the same set of product with a different, heterogeneous sort of a companies, and we found that the data accuracy was to the level of only 60%. So there is a lot of data inaccuracy in place. So over a period of time, the emphasis that we are giving for other thing is not going on the data part. For example, just to give you, when we even design an applications or anything, we need to really get into the integrity of it, right? What is the, the master data of it, what is the transactional data of it, what is the privileged data, what is the confidential data. So that much of deep thing has to go into that. I think we have to, really improve upon the data quality of it. The second thing is like, what Aadhaar has transformed, in terms of it with the centralized data and things which are there. Now the concept of, the blockchain is coming up with the distributed data. Just to give you some of the projects that we have been engaged with the government. See, in a physical world, you can create a trust, right? You go physically, see a person, relationship. But how do you translate that trust, in the digital world? That's the biggest, whether really truly it's an organic or whether it has come from a particular geographical thing which is there. So if you look at in India as a country, we are in terms of a value addition on an export realization has to be done by creating that, trust and the digital things which are there. So we are, involved in a very couple of interesting products related to, the blockchain area. In, increasingly as the technology grows, there are a lot of counterfeit also comes across, whether it is a medicine, whether it is in any product, you see a lot of counterfeit. So what we have done, over a period of technological blockchain changes which are coming up. So the recently one of the ghee product, of their mother dairy, which we have used a chain called blockchain, blockchain technology, which right from, looking at a product at the retail shelf, it can go to the level of from which village, which cow the ghee has been made from. So, and it's also distributed so that you cannot tamper with the data in terms of it which is there. So that's the level of, the distributed data of the digital blockchain things are coming up on that. So also we have seen, around 2011-12 when we designed the concept of FASTag, we said that this data is going to be used across various stakeholders. How do we do that? So that's the vision of things which are there. And very important aspect is we sometimes collect too much of data also in the system which is not required. So for example, if anything as a supply chain standards organization, if you look at there or for any company for having a real visibility, you need to answer 5 questions, what, where, when, why, how. For that, you have to store it in a very structured form of it to do that. So that is the amount of data that we are seeing in. And also, gradually, especially with the AI and technologies which are there, every object, every product is going to get a digital identity. Like what we are seeing on a physical product is gradually translating into the digital. And also for, in the identity space, not only in terms of products, but also, in terms of healthcare facilities. So already we run the registry for the hospitals, which every hospital is uniquely identified. Similarly for the land. So the another challenge which is there across, in industries as well as also with the, in terms of with the regulators of the government is interoperability. The same data is collected by everybody across. There is no interoperability between each stakeholder onto that. So that we have to bring in a lot of standards across so that we use a minimum amount of data and the accuracy of data could be there. I see going forward, we have heard about chief quality officer for a product, a chief digital officer. Similarly for a data, in the decades to come, you will see a chief data quality officer to come because that's the level of in terms of accuracy of data is required. And all these data accuracy, the models can work fine only if you have a good quality of data sitting into the system. And companies have to be very, very careful now with the, in terms of the digital personal data protection coming in. It's a journey together. It's not going to happen in 6 months or year, because the way we have collected the data so far, for either the, the personal data, for every entity has got some personal data are there. So we need to prepare for that journey across in terms of it to do that, and structured and organize the data. That's going to be a very, very important, in terms of a task ahead for all of us.
Thank you, Swami. We've covered the the startups, the deep tech they're working on, and how important data is going to be, and the piece that kind of joins data and what we see is really the hardware and software. So we have Rajesh, Embed UR Systems. So Rajesh, how do you think hardware, software is evolving in the AI era?
Hello. Hope I'm audible. Again, good afternoon or good evening, and thanks for having me, and great question. I'm going to start asking a few questions to the audience, so I can elaborate on certain things that that we are seeing as a trend in our industry. How many of you have heard of NVIDIA? And how many of you know what did NVIDIA start as a company? What did they want to accomplish? Graphics card, right? So the reason I bring that up is, so back in the day, graphic acceleration and gaming was pretty popular. And it just so happened that graphic processing became really powerful because it was parallel processing. And to perform parallel processes and compute was necessary. So all of a sudden, they realized that compute was available through GPUs. And as a result, all the algorithms add the compute. So it's like the fire, fuel to the fire was added, and as a result, the development of AI came about really quickly. But we're all fascinated about AI just because AI is cognitive in its capacity to reason and talk to us and give us all the responses, and we keep talking about ChatGPT, but we forget there has been a technology transition almost every 10 years, right? If you go back and rewind, a lot of you are using cell phones. There were no cell phones, there were analog phones just 22 years ago. Then came about cellular phones, and then came about Wi-Fi that we all use at home, where you go home, you get your internet router, and then you connect and use Wi-Fi. Now, why does this make a big difference? So back again, I'm talking about 1994 and 1995, the internet speeds were very low. The first technology transition happened as routers and switches and the internet started powering infrastructure. Once the internet started, there were equipment that were built to kind of perform intensive compute to make your infrastructure faster. So as a result, the killer application, and what was the killer application that used the power of the internet? Can anyone think of one killer app? Email. More recently, we all watch it 24/7. It even recommends stupid shows to us. Netflix, right? Netflix is possible. We all jump onto Netflix and watch these streaming programs without even realizing that there's really tremendous, powerful infrastructure called the internet that's powering and giving you those speeds that you can watch these shows at any point in time. So that was the aha moment where internet came about, faster internet came about, 10 gig internet came about. Now we're talking about 100 gig, 1 terabyte and beyond. And as a result, killer applications develop. Now we were never fascinated. We never talked about Netflix as the aha moment. We never talked about Amazon as the aha moment. We always keep talking about AI as the aha moment. Again, the only reason is because it's being able to give you cognitive responses, and we are all fascinated with that cognitive response. We can almost interact with it, and you can do things with it. Like he said, you can make Einstein teach you, right? Now, what we are seeing, again, is a generational shift, just like NVIDIA happened. What is happening at the moment right now is this compute, this level of compute, is coming into low-powered chipsets. These are semiconductors, names of companies I can mention, Qualcomm being one of them, but they're higher in the price chain. ST Micro, it's a European company. Cypress or Infineon, which is also a European company. Synaptics, which is an American company. All these companies are building chipsets. And there is a new class of intelligence that's coming about called edge intelligence. When I say edge intelligence, intelligence to some point needs inference. Intelligence that happens today needs some sort of connectivity back to the cloud to go back to a big data center where the decisions are taken and actions are performed and sent down to machines. And that's how it happens today. But what is going to happen in the next 5 years is you don't need connectivity back, which means your devices are going to be a little bit more secure. And the reason you don't need connectivity back is these devices, each and every one of these small devices, are getting a neural processing unit. Now think of GPUs, graphic processing units, doing parallel processing. Neural processing units are similar, except they are smaller and they can perform very well-defined parallel tasks at the low-cost chipset at the edge, which means your inferencing is now happening very instantly at the edge of the device. This is where hardware is going. This is where software is going along with it, which means it's going to become even more easier to be able to create applications and to take some of these artificial intelligence models and then boil them down to smaller packages and have them run on these low-cost chipsets. How will it make a difference for you and for us? For example, there are projects being worked on where your glasses, your reading glasses, will automatically become inference-based glasses without having connectivity, which means it'll have some memory, it'll have Bluetooth power, it'll have visual sensing. So as you walk, and if I look at the car, and if I look at a car and I can ask my glass to tell me what car it is, what manufacturer, when was it made? It has that level of sophistication without having to have connectivity to give you that response. That is where things are moving towards. And as a result, every company that uses any sort of chip is going to become a software company of sorts, which means software is going to power a lot of these embedded devices. And that is where intelligence is shaping the way we live, and we are going to use hardware to transform our lives also. Because this is going to create huge impacts in agriculture, it's going to create huge impacts in healthcare, it's going to create huge impact in visual, audio, all across the fields in all different verticals.
Thanks, Rajesh. I think we can open the floor for questions. If I can have the CII team pass around the mic, that'll be good. Monsi, is anybody there? Or I can come over and yeah.
I'm Dr. Sudarshan, working as a professor in artificial intelligence and data science. I have a small question to Mr. Swami. Actually, this is completely regarding data engineering. So I believe that both of us lead on the same domain. Uh, I'm quite happy that you've given much more information about it. And the highlight of it is that you've given that in future there'll be a chief data officer. I'm really happy about it. So I just have a small question to you. So earlier I've started as a data engineer. When I was working with clients, I was getting more clear data. Later during the pandemic, I've been working with the frontline workers, getting the data set from the government and processing. By that time, we've compromised on the data quality. So can you give me the trade-off between data quality and sustainability? What is your views with respect to it?
Okay. See, in terms of, the reason is of data quality is, even within any organization across, there is no, one source of truth of data that is, available across in terms of it. So, especially coming in terms of, if you look at, for example, in the Europe and some of the parts of it, for a quality data, there are also carbon credits for the products available on that, right? So you have to have a lot of, data related to the way the product is processed and other things which are there. So just to give you an, example in terms of it, which is there. Now with the increasing compliance and label, we have been advocating for a electronic labeling on products. For example, every product which is very small and the compliance requirements are too large, how you can do that? So that's what they are moving towards, the QR code part of it, which is there. And then definitely, with a lot of data which is coming in, for example, if you have seen a couple of weeks back on the circular economy and plastics, right, which the data has to be there on that. So definitely on sustainability, data is also being collected at this point of time, and definitely there will be a lot of incentives, like your carbon credit incentives of sustainability data, which is there, and the regulations are, and also the directives and the government is also moving towards that part of it, which is there. Thank you.
This is Professor Sridhar Narayan from Grand Alliance for Management Excellence. Thanks a lot for the views. In fact, we were in a panel, working panel on this. And one of the interesting questions or the thoughts that came was, how are we going to ensure that AI or any digitalization tool is reached to everybody in the system? There is no, so that there is no haves and have-nots. Any thoughts how to proliferate or make it available, and so that it's ensured that equivalent development happens across?
One of the things that's happening in India right now is that we have the government asking different teams to submit their proposals to develop a foundational model. So the general view is that a model that's developed in India using Indian data hosted in India would probably be more amenable for use in India context, and would also likely to be maybe what shall I say, cheaper than models that we import from elsewhere. So I have a view on this. This is my personal view, is that we need to go the way we went with UPI and Aadhaar. So there needs to be a public infrastructure which are the models, and we build different applications over it, right? And we might need to have some kind of a holiday in terms of user fee, right? So UPI is so popular. One of the reasons is that none of the users pay a fee as of now, right? So that's one way I think we need to think about how we can make AI models and applications easily accessible to everybody in India. So go.
And also, there are two aspects of artificial intelligence, right? One is people who actually do the foundational work of taking data, creating basic models, the large language models as they call it. And then there are consumers of that, where we consume ChatGPT and we use AI in that perspective. Now, having said that, for AI to reach everybody, one of the biggest impediments is compute, because compute is expensive. I mean, not everybody can afford a NVIDIA GPU server, because these are like pretty expensive. Now, I talked about this at the CII Connect in December, and then I was at CES in January, and then NVIDIA says, oh, by the way, we heard you. They didn't say that, but they said, hey, we are announcing something called Project Digits. How many of you have heard of Project Digits? So Project Digits was just launched at CES, and they're coming up with this supercomputer, which is now going to cost $3,000, which is going to be extremely effective in running models that can go up to close to 72 billion parameters, right? So that is one aspect. Now, having said that, for every small business to be able to use it, public infrastructure is also necessary, much like what we're talking about, because not everybody can get compute at AWS, Azure, and all that, where a public infrastructure cloud that is available with a lot of compute capability available for common citizens, for institutions, and for academia will also enable people to have access to AI more easily.
No, I think he was in my panel, so I'm glad both of you aligned with what I had told him then. So very important is, as government, we are looking at a citizen-centric approach. That's what I was telling them. It's like how UPI kind of, went till the grassroots. AI has to be like that. So the kind of, right from like where we do a top-down approach as well as a bottom-up approach. We are looking at from primary education, how do we integrate AI? Ethical AI, which I talked about, so that the sense of using it in the right way is ingrained in the students, middle school. So that kind of strategy is being worked out by IT department, that we want to kind of roll it out. But in the same token, how UPI is like everybody. So, and also going vernacular was the other thing. So languages like even coding and stuff got into the tier 2, tier 3 cities mainly because of the vernacular language being introduced. I think every state, like Tamil Nadu, definitely encourages a lot of vernaculars into their system, which becomes very important because, as I was telling them, English is a language of communication. That shouldn't deter somebody's skill set not to be known. So that's one thing we definitely have to focus on.